Hey everyone, Kevin here. The Federal Reserve just released their transcript with Jerome Powell's interview on 60 Minutes. I have the transcript. I've already broken it down. I'm going to give you the most important information from updates regarding a stimulus, the economy, the markets, what to watch, what the expectations are for the market. This is big. Now, I encourage you to watch the entire 60 Minutes interview, but I'm going to give you some very important takeaways right here, and I'm going to add my commentary to them. Let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and put this up on picture-in-picture as well. Here we go. Okay, let's get started. So the interview starts off with, look, when does the economy recover is the question. And Jerome Powell makes this very clear. Look, people are not going to be traveling, going to restaurants, and flying on planes until they can feel confident in the recovery. And he believes the only way to do that is either getting the virus under control or having some sort of vaccine. I think that goes without saying. But later in the interview, he suggests that, look, looking at the economic data doesn't matter. And that's actually really interesting because, this is a Fed Reserve chairman saying the economic data isn't what's important right now. What's actually more important right now is the medical data, because the longer this virus lasts, the harder it is for our economy to recover. So all of the economic data is in the past. The medical data is like up-to-date info on what you should expect for the stock market, for the economy, and everything. That's why it's kind of like as soon as we started as a nation flattening the curve, the stock market's going up. And it's like, what? The economic data is so bad. Yeah, but flattening the curve. The stock market's picking up on this as future data, right? Anyway, let's see what else he's saying here. So, many states are beginning to reopen. Do you consider the virus under control? And Powell says, well, we'll see. He actually recommends wearing masks in certain situations, saying people have to protect themselves, washing their hands. But he thinks that over the next couple of months, you're going to start seeing the beginnings of a recovery. This is interesting. Let's see what else he says. He does say, I think, though, it will be a while before we really feel recovered. And the interviewer says, what is recovered? And he says, well, certain parts of the economy are going to bounce back and others are going to take a lot longer to recover. Things like travel, entertainment, and things are not going to recover until we have a full and effective vaccine. There are just going to be a lot of people that won't go out. This makes a lot of sense. Then the interviewer asks, and your people tell you that millions of doses of a reasonable, effective vaccine are how far away? And to this, Powell says, look, we're not experts, and what we can say is what we're hearing is nobody's certain. And I think this is kind of the commenters' questions coming because Donald Trump is suggesting, hey, vaccine at the end of the year, we're going to have millions of doses ready by the end of the year. And keep in mind, and this is not like trying to slam Trump or take sides or anything, keep in mind, Trump is gearing up here for an election. I mean, honestly, what's kind of sad about this whole thing, and I mean, if depending on which side you are, I guess you might think it's great. But realistically, what's sad is that we're not having debates, right? Where are the Biden-Trump debates? They're not happening. And so Trump has 100% basically reign over the media right now, which in some way is kind of what happened in the 2016 election. Again, half of you are going to think that's great, half of you are going to think that's terrible. I'm not taking sides. But this is interesting because Chairman Jerome Powell is saying, look, it's highly uncertain, realistically, that we're going to have an effective vaccine, millions of doses of that by the end of the year, but we don't know. And so the question then comes out, what do you think? Do you think we're like a year away? Or are we 18 months away? And he kind of dodges that, saying, it's difficult to tell. And, the travel, the sporting events and theaters and that, they're going to look at other things. In fact, he specifically asked, what about like the airlines? And he says, look, they'll look to alternative things. Mostly, he kind of dodges airlines totally here, and he goes directly into sporting events and theaters will be doing more online performances and things like that. Totally ignores the question about the airline. This right here, this is Jerome Powell saying the airlines. I'm not going to say it because I'm not going to swear on the channel, but I think y'all know what I was going to say. Oops. Anyway. So he goes on to say, but I would just say this, in the long run and even in the medium run, you wouldn't want to bet against the American economy. I mentioned that in a video this morning because they actually gave this part of the interview as an excerpt online. It was like a 60-second interview or excerpt online because this is the full 60-minute interview. So thinks, it's all about how many measures people take to protect themselves. And yeah, don't worry, I'm getting to the stimulus check part. By the way, if you like kind of listening to me, but you want something else to do, remember, you could still get 2 free stocks with Webull. Go to the link down below. Click the little button. You could sign up for an account and get 2 free stocks if you deposit $100 while I'm saying this. All right, here's the big thing, okay? One of the big things. I've, over the past few days, referenced some of the reports that Jerome Powell has been reading. And the reason, I know what he's been reading is because he actually tells us exactly what kind of reports he's been reading. So I've been going through some of his reports, like this one right here, which is the cost of job loss report. This is a really good one. And so I know these are some of the things that he's reading and some of the things that he's referencing. And he references that essentially here when he says, look, there's a real risk that if people are out of work for long periods of time, that their skills atrophy a little bit and they lose contact with the workforce. This is something that shows up in the data. The longer and deeper recessions tend to leave behind more damage to people's career, and that weighs on the economy going forward. To me, that's really fascinating because it makes sense. I mean, as a real estate agent, if I have a funnel of, 50 clients this year, but all of a sudden I lose contact with them over the next, 2 months because everybody's on lockdown, well, all of a sudden I have to re-advertise. My snowball of clients kind of melted a little bit because every client I sell a house to, they might talk to me to 2 or 3 of their friends and I might get more clients, right? More sales lead to more sales. That's kind of why they say success begets success. Well, lack of productivity or lack of success also begets a lack of productivity, right? Like if you're declining, a decline can be self-fulfilling. And that's a little bit what he's saying here, especially not only because you're losing contacts, but your skills also weaken. Other people who are, working out their skills, basically studying online, learning how to be a better real estate agent or whatever, they're the ones who are going to come out ahead over those of us who are hanging out at home. And look, a lot of us are stuck at home. Like we can't do anything because we're on lockdown, and that just sucks. So here, Jerome Powell is empathizing with, look, there's not much a lot of us can do. I can't drive a forklift better sitting here in my room. For that person, I would recommend do whatever you can to get a license, be a licensed contractor or a lender or a real estate agent. Now's the time to kind of start a side hustle, okay? Prep. Because, I don't want you to go back thinking your job is going to be there and then all of a sudden, your boss is like, oh, we're downsizing or we've hired this robot over here. It's going to suck. My brother-in-law, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this. Oh, well. My brother-in-law's company just laid off a bunch of people and none of them were expecting to get laid off. It's not his company. He works there, the company he works for. A lot of people were unexpectedly laid off. They didn't even see it coming. And they're computer programmers. What? Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, let's see what else we got here. See, look at this. He says you could say the same thing about businesses. Small and medium-sized businesses are so important to this country, and basically he's saying if they have to go through a wave of avoidable insolvencies, you've lost something, and that's more than just a few businesses, because he says small businesses are really the job creation machine of America. And if we let these companies go bankrupt without more stimulus, you're creating lasting damage to this economy, and it will take some time to recover from it. Scary. That is real and scary. All right, so what do we got here? Okay, we will see more layoffs over the next month. Before this, we were at the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years, the lowest African-American unemployment rate ever. And over the last 10 years, really towards the last year, some more of the, minority communities had opportunities to get better jobs. Because here's what happens. When the unemployment rate is 3.5%, there are more companies we need to hire more people. We need to hire more people. And that means, there are more jobs available. So that means people in potentially disadvantaged communities have an easier time getting a job. So this, Roni, actually destroys that, because you're basically taking 30 million people and unemploying them. And then the people who were just able to get better jobs, like newer programmers or newer business people or business owners or newer employees or employees who used to get discriminated against, who are finally getting jobs, like women and other minorities, all of a sudden it's this sucks. Now these are the first people to get hit hard again. That's not fair. There's just nothing I can say about that other than this disproportionately screws women, one group, and minorities. And that sucks. So this is exactly what Jerome Powell is saying. We had low and moderate income communities telling us that this was the best labor market. And a tight labor market, what I just described, means more opportunity. But now the Rona actually hurts those communities worse. In fact, he goes on to say that they're going to release a report suggesting that women are the ones who are substantially hit hard on this. And so to this, the interviewer comes back and says, is this like the second Great Depression? Is this what this is going to go down as? And Jerome Powell says, no, he doesn't think so because we had a healthy economy going into this. The financial system is still strong and the government's response has been good. I think a lot of us would disagree with that because, yeah, sure, the financial system's fine. The big fat corporations are fine. The people who have invested a bunch of money in assets are fine. Like, look, I'm fine. I just did a video revealing, my assets, my stocks and my real estate portfolio. You could watch it. And that's just to try to help motivate you that there is light once we get through this crap. But right now, we have to be real here. Everybody in the lower income threshold is bearing the brunt of this. And the easiest way to help is by having more stimulus. And we're going to get to Jerome Powell suggesting essentially that in just a moment. So let's keep moving on here. So I think it's very plausible that the economy will take some time to get back together. Activity is going to decline substantially in the second quarter. And then he talks about the 4X issue. The 4X issue is basically when you say, okay, the economy contracted 10% in the second quarter. What people do is they annualize that rate, and then they'll say, oh, the economy contracted at a 40% rate at an annualized rate. It's kind of bad to multiply by 4 because this is such a short-term kind of impact and it's a sudden impact. But anyway, so he kind of mentions that 4X issue. And to that, the interviewer says 20% and Powell goes easily. It could easily be in the 20s or 30s. That's the number that I'm just referring to. So in other words, it's probably going to be in the 30s to the 40 range. I don't think it's going to hit 40, but that annualized rate's gonna be pretty bad for like the contraction of our economy. Like a 30% annualized contraction. That's really bad. Powell does not think we're going to get back to where we were at the end of last year this year. Oh, here's the part. See, look at this. The people who are getting hurt the most or the worst are the recently hired lowest paid people. It's women to an extraordinary extent. We're actually releasing a report tomorrow that shows that. And we've heard this stat before, that those who are making less than $40,000 a year, 40% of them have lost jobs. Those are the people who are bearing the brunt of this. That's effed up, honestly. Like, it should be I hate to say it because I own stocks, but it should be the corporations that are getting screwed. And really, right now, it's the people that are getting screwed, and it's so wrong. Congress needs to do more. And that's why he says here, it may well be that the Fed has to do more, and it may be that Congress has to do more. And the reason we need to all do more is essentially to avoid longer run damage to the economy. He suggests then that we are a creature of Congress, and they have oversight over us as the Fed. And that I would say that policies that help businesses avoid avoidable insolvencies and that they should do the same for individuals. This is really blunt here, and this is like Fed speak, but let me just simplify this. Basically, he's saying, yo, Congress, there are a bunch of people here that are going to go bankrupt and you can avoid it. There are a bunch of businesses here that are gonna go bankrupt. You can avoid it. But you're my daddy, so just seal my lips here and talk through a filter. That's basically what he's doing here, okay? But because I'm not the Fed and I'm not working for Congress, I could say that to you. Then he talks about how, there was a flight to safety in March, basically talking about why the market had crashed there. But I mean, this right here, by the way, is I'll link this article down below, but this is a really big part of this because it really says, look, we need to, here it is in yellow, to keep families solvent. We need, so that when this comes, or when things come around, we come out the other end of this and we're at a position to have a strong recovery. People will then be able to spend and be able to do things. And that's what we need to have a strong recovery when it comes. In other words, we need more stimulus to help people keep them paying their bills and keep people in their homes and keeping companies and small businesses and people solvent. That's what we need. So then we talk about the flight to safety, what the crash that happened in March, how they saw it coming, of course, because, of the data from January and Iran and how it was leaking out of China and then South Korea and Italy. And so some of the things that they did, fair to say you simply flooded the system with money. Yes, we did. That's another way to think about it. Where does the money come from? Do you just print it? By the way, I've been talking about this for months, but yeah, they just change it on a spreadsheet. In fact, in one of my old videos, I literally just took a spreadsheet up and I showed you, all right, add $1 trillion to the debt, add $1 trillion to assets. That's how they do it. And here, Jerome Powell actually says it. It's actually kind of a fascinating line. We print it digitally. So as a central bank, we have the ability to create money digitally. So Jerome can actually rest his arm and he just has to go boop, boop. Coffee break. That was easy. Did my job for the day. That's nuts, right? So we actually, we also print actual currency and we distribute that through the Federal Reserve banks. Oh, okay, so that way he can still pose for the picture. Okay, continuing on. The things we're doing now are substantially larger. Okay, some of this is a little bit more detailed. I read all of this, but I'm just highlighting the stuff that's more important for us, right? Okay, so, this was funny. The interviewer says, hey, should people stuff their money in a mattress? There's absolutely no need to do that. No need at all. Banks have been strong. They've been fine. There's absolutely no need to do that. Honestly, with how, strong he's saying that, it almost makes you wonder, should I take my money and run? Should I put my money in a mattress? I obviously personally do not think you need to do that. I'm not taking my money and running. I'd tell you if I am. Look, I've been telling y'all every step of the way what I've been doing with my money. And, now I actually just showed you my whole portfolio and my net worth over the years, because I just feel like the more transparent I can be with y'all, the more you can kind of just learn from me and see what's going on behind the scenes. Okay, so if you take the long perspective, the US has been spending more than what it's been taking in for some time. So this starts talking about the debt. The time to deal with that higher debt is basically when the economy is growing faster than the debt. So basically the time to pay off all this extra debt we're taking on is when the economy is strong and unemployment is low. Just a heads up, we tried to do that in 2008 or 18, Mr. Jerome Powell, but he almost crashed the economy. So, all right, what else do we got over here? This was interesting. So this is a little bit more kind of circling back to that longer run damage that employees have. And so I wrote ad next to it because it is interesting. It's like if you did a year worth of advertising on Facebook as a real estate agent and all of a sudden you stopped advertising in March and April, it's kind of like you have to start building your brand again, See, look at this. Their contacts get old and cold. Their skills atrophy. That just means become less functional, less strong. It's kind of like your muscles decaying, atrophying. So this can weigh on the economy for years. Keeping away from Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which is a restructuring of your debt, if it's avoidable, is very important. Unfortunately, it's not going to be avoidable in many cases. Big danger, obviously, to state and local governments. They're going to see a strong decline in revenues. And basically, if Congress doesn't bail them out, what all that's going to mean is people are going to get laid off and they'll cut back on services, which kind of sucks because I feel like we saw a lot of that in 2010 and 11, and now we're going to see more of that again, which sucks because they finally started repaving some roads around here. Anyway, all right, so then we talk about negative interest rates, how banks would basically be paying you to borrow money if they came around with negative interest rates. But he says, he doesn't see that happening. And multiple Fed presidents have come out to say that we don't see doing this because it introduces too many distortions to the market and to the financial system, which basically offset the benefit of having negative interest rates. And it's an area of real uncertainty in the banking world. And basically that it's been tried, but it hasn't been successful in the past. So, and then the real risk that he sees here would be, look, if we reopen the economy, but we have to close down again, and that could potentially lead to another crash. In fact, let me look at his wording here, because he says, and that you would have another downturn. Oh, yeah, basically. So if we have to lock down again, you'd have another downturn, and that would be really bad for confidence. So that's a risk we really want to avoid. I mean, those are powerful lines right there, Mr. Powell here. All right, what else we got? There's more that we can do. Well, I mentioned in the long run, I would never bet against America. Well, good thing, because I keep investing in stocks. Mr. Chairman, I just got a push notification on my phone. Dow tanks more than 500 points in Wall Street sell-off after Fed chair warns economic recovery will be prolonged. And Powell just goes, yeah, I've been watching the markets. I know. It's got to be depressing. Jeez, I feel bad for the guy. The guy gets so many memes made on him and made fun of so much. But I respect the guy, okay? No, I mean, hats off to what he has to do. But anyway, the good news is we have tools to limit the longer run damage by continuing to provide support to households and businesses, and we get through this. The problem is it's really Congress that has the household support tool, right? And so we really need that more stimulus. Talk a little bit about Main Street lending. A lot of this, again, has to do with businesses, so I didn't spend too much time highlighting this. Main Street lending is really like big street lending. It's like corporate lending. It's a joke. I don't know why they named it that. And then this is what I mentioned at the beginning of the video, where if you want to look at data, the most important is the medical metric. And that's sort of the real-time economic. See, but in a sense, the real-time economic data we're seeing is just a function of how successful the social distancing measures are. That's a really well said sentence. I mean, wow, good for this guy. Well, okay, so, AKA Jerome Powell says we need more stimulus. And I think that's obvious. We've said that multiple times now in other videos, but this really goes deep into some of the things that he's saying. This is the first time we've had like a full-on 60-minute interview with him. So thank you, CBS. Go watch that 60-minute interview. Join me in my programs down below. There is an awesome coupon code that does expire soon. And by the way, a lot of you have been emailing me going, hey, Kevin, I want a bundle coupon. What's the scoop? Here's how that works. If you check out for like the real estate investing course and you use a 33% off coupon code, once you pay for it, you're gonna get a pop-up for a bundle for the other courses. And then, this is kind of a bonus secret I'm telling you in this video here, or if you email me, if you buy 3 or 4 courses, there is a bonus discount. So once you check out for 3 or 4 courses, just email me and say, hey, I bought 3 or 4 courses. You'll get an extra $50 or an extra $125 as a bonus. That coupon code does expire in about a week. So I would love to see you in the programs. Remember, I go live every day at 9 a.m. Would love to see you there. Well, every day the market is open. So when the stock market's open, I go live and gladly help you out with your investments, your finances, and providing perspective as, a dude on YouTube who's here to help you. Always make sure you get your life insurance and your 2 free stocks with Webull as well. Link down below. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time.